Zombie fungus. Cordyceps are a genus of fungi that can be found all over the world, mostly in tropical jungles and especially in areas such as Asia and South America. The fungi act by infecting an insect and taking over control of their brain. Many of the species choose to infect ants, which makes sense because of how abundant they are. When the ants come into contact with the spores of the fungi, they're infected. The fungi begin to control the ant, making it climb as high as it can inside of the foliage, after which the ant will fix itself to a leaf or a twig and die. The fungus begins to sprout from inside of the ant's head, forming a stem over the next 3 weeks. After that, the stem bursts, unleashing the next generation of spores into the jungle. Each of the zombie fungi specialize in just one type of insect, which means that no one species can grow too much. If one group of insects increases too much, they have a much higher chance of being infected by these, and their numbers stay under control. A long-lost Mayan city. The Mayan people have always been regarded as skilled astronomers. A 15-year-old boy named William Godori from Canada decided to put Mayan stargazing to the test, theorizing that the ancient civilization built their cities based on the constellations in the sky. Using images he gathered from the Canadian Space Agency, Google Earth, and information about Mayan settlements, William was able to locate marks which indicate a potentially hidden city in the Yucatan jungles of Mexico. Although nobody's been able to go to the site to analyze the findings yet due to the incredibly dense foliage, the images point to a possible complex of pyramids with linear elements that could be an entire network of streets. Of course, these images could be showing nothing more than just natural features of the jungle. However, that is incredibly unlikely, as straight lines like these are very rarely found in nature, indicating that this is likely due to human life. The Lost Stone Head of Guatemala. In 1987, Oscar Rafael Padilla Lara, a doctor of philosophy, a lawyer, and a notary, received a photo of a large stone head situated somewhere inside of the Guatemalan jungles. The photo was said to have been taken in the 1950s by a man who owned the land on which the head was located. Dr. Lara tracked down the landowner to inquire as to the position of this head, but sadly, when he arrived, the head no longer even looked human. Between 1960 and 1996, a civil war raged through Guatemala, and the rebels used this giant head for target practice. When Dr. Lara measured the remains of the head, it stood roughly 20 feet tall. More importantly, the head didn't resemble anything else found in that area. It had a Caucasian look to it, which didn't resemble any of the tribes in the area at the time. Some believe that this anomaly was the work of aliens, while others say it might have been some secret communication with a different culture. Others just believe that the whole thing is a hoax due to the unfortunate series of events surrounding its destruction. The answers, however, will remain hidden in the Guatemalan jungles. Sigiriya, located on the island of Sri Lanka, is an abandoned fortress that dates back to the 5th century. The palace is built on a 600-foot, large, vertical granite slab that towers over everything in the surrounding jungle. The fortress belonged to King Kashyapa, who came into power after overthrowing his father and killing both his father and his brother in order to take over the throne. He then moved the capital from its old location to Sigiriya due to its defensive capabilities. This giant granite slab that it was built on once plugged the mouth of a volcano, but over time, the volcano completely eroded, leaving just this giant stone remaining. The king's brother eventually returned with an army and defeated Kashyapa and moved the capital back to its old location, turning Sigiriya into a Buddhist monastery, which is how it remained all the way until the 14th century. It then remained abandoned for the next 500 years until being rediscovered in 1831 by the British troops. Eventually, in the 1980s, the Sri Lankan government got involved in its restoration, and since then, it's become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The complex was made up of a royal palace at the top, a mid-level terrace which features a lion-shaped gate and smaller palaces inside. The spiral stairs leading up to the palace were built next to the mirror wall, which was covered in plaster and polished until the king could see his own reflection inside of it. The largest flower in the world, measuring over 3 feet wide and weighing a whopping 24 pounds, the Rafflesia arnoldi is the largest flower in the world. There are only 17 known species of this flower, and all of them grow in the jungles of Southeast Asia. Not only is this flower the biggest in the world, it also has a very distinctive odor. The smell of dead, rotting flesh. This flower uses its aroma to attract its main pollinator, the carrion fly. Its appearance features 5 massive, red, leathery petals and a deep well in the middle where the flies go in to try to find their rotting remains, but instead they get covered in pollen. The corpse lily is also a parasite, using thread-like growths that go inside of its host, the tetrastigma vine. Before the bulb sprouts, there are no signs of the flower's existence, and it can take up to 10 months for the flower to go from bulb to blooming. Singapore's botanic gardens have attempted to grow these flowers, but have yet to achieve any success. So if you do want to see one, you're going to have to venture deep into the Southeast Asian jungles. Cuvette Centrale, Congo's hidden carbon sink. Over the past few years, scientists have been mapping the Congo Basin. It turns out that this basin has one of the biggest carbon sinks in the world, which covers an area bigger than England, roughly 56,000 square miles. Even though this swampland makes up just 4% of the entire basin, it holds as much carbon above as the ground below it does, which is roughly 30 billion tons. The peatland is also 16 times larger than what scientists initially estimated. Peat is decomposing matter, which is partially turned into soil and is found in tropical areas like this one. Because of the water above, the decomposition of things stops midway, and if left undisturbed, peatland turns into carbon sinks, sucking up air from the plants above and storing it underground when the plants die. The Congo Basin sink started developing over 11,000 years ago at the end of our last ice age. Real-life Tarzan. It is well known that entering a jungle bears the risk that you may never come out. This is what happened to a man and his then infant son who had been living in the Vietnamese jungles for more than 40 years. During the Vietnamese War, O Van Tan, now about 82 years old, took his infant son into the jungle to escape a US air raid that had killed his wife and 2 of his older sons. 40 years later, the father and son were discovered about 25 miles away from the nearest village, living in a treehouse near a stream. They had made all their own tools, such as axes, knives, and arrows, and even had their own sugarcane plantation. They had a fire burning inside of their suspended hut and had made clothes and underwear using dried tree bark. At the time they were discovered, the father had forgotten most of the original language, and the son didn't know any language. But even though the son was thin, he was found to be in peak physical health. When they were later taken back to the village for treatment, the doctors had to tie the father to a bed because he kept trying to leave and go back into his jungle. The boiling Amazonian River. When geophysicist Andre Russo was a child, his grandfather had told him about the legend of how some conquistadors had gone searching for the city of El Dorado, the Golden City, rumored to be hidden deep inside of the Amazonian jungles. From the very few explorers who managed to return from these adventures came the tales of man-eating snakes, jungle people with poisonous darts, giant trees, and a boiling river that killed anything that fell inside of its waters. This story remained stuck inside of Russo's mind, and for his PhD, he chose to make Peru's first geothermal map. Boiling streams really do exist, however they are situated near volcanoes and other geothermal hotspots, which the Amazonian basin doesn't have, which would make the boiling river completely impossible. As luck would have it, Russo's aunt had been to this mystical river before and knew the river shaman's wife. She took him to this river, which was located more than 440 miles away from the nearest volcano, deep inside of the Peruvian jungle. The river was 82 feet wide, as deep as 20 feet in some places, and at a distance of 4 miles, had water that reached a boiling point. This area, known as Mayan, is a sacred area to its natives, and they use the water for cooking, brewing tea, and washing. Scientists still can't explain why this river is so hot, but it's probably a good idea to avoid taking a swim in this one. Costa Rica's stone spheres. Ever since the 1930s, people have been discovering stone spheres all across of southern Costa Rica. In order to make room for their banana plantations, farmers started clearing out the jungle, but came across these round stone balls, varying in size from just a few inches to over 6 feet in diameter. Some of them weighed as much as 15 tons. The farmers were unsure of what to do with them. Some rolled them out of the way and some blew them up with dynamite. However, soon after their discovery, a proper archaeological investigation was conducted. Some of the spheres that had been left in their original position were dated from between 300 and 1550 AD, but most of them were made around 1000 AD, which was more than 500 years before the Spanish conquest. Not much, if anything, is known about the creators of these, other than the fact that they lived in scattered settlements, made use of agriculture, and lived in circular houses. Despite being referred to as spheres, they're nowhere near being perfectly round. Since most of the spheres were moved from their original positions, their purpose remains unknown. The White City of the Monkey God. Since the time of Cortez and the conquest of the Aztecs, there have been tales of a huge city located somewhere deep in the unexplored jungles of the south. The city was said to be so rich and so powerful that the nobles there ate their food off of golden plates. It was also said that an all-powerful monkey god was in charge of the city. In 1939, explorer Theodore Morte claimed to find it inside of a valley area in Honduras, but was later found dead, having hanged himself, and never having revealed the location of this city to anyone. A recent expedition to the area discovered the site using state-of-the-art technology. Located inside of a crater-like valley surrounded by mountains and dense foliage, archaeologists have been able to map a large area of this site, finding plazas, pyramids, valuable artifacts, and stone statues. Although they found no evidence to support the city being ruled by a monkey god, they have discovered a previously unknown civilization. This discovery didn't come cheap. A group of the explorers were struck down by an aggressive face-eating disease while inside the jungle, contracted from sandflies. After receiving urgent medical treatment, all the members did end up making a full recovery. It appears that looking for hidden, undiscovered civilizations in the Amazon can have some pretty severe consequences.
So imagine this. You're going through the woods one day and you hear something coming near you. You pause and try to determine what it is. You think it's just an animal, so you get your camera out and are ready to take the shot. But when the objects reveal themselves, you take the shot, and this is what you see. Yep, that doesn't look right, does it? Clearly there is a deer on the left side, and that's not creepy at all. But the things that chasing it, yeah, that's a different story. What exactly is this thing? We don't know, and we don't know where exactly the picture was taken. Rumors state that it might be the infamous Jersey Devil, while others think it could be some other kind of monster out there. The possibilities are near endless, but this kind of picture is the thing that keeps most people indoors at night. What do you think it is, or isn't? Also, do you think it caught the deer? It's definitely not uncommon for people to find toys in the woods. Kids play in them all the time, and sometimes leave them behind. Perfectly natural. What is not natural, however, is when a person goes into the woods and finds a doll's head. Just the head. And even creepier, finding the head without any hair on it, making it look more dead than anything else. The person who found this doll noted on Reddit that they looked around for the rest of the body, but nothing else was there, which means that either someone left that head there or something got to the doll and dismantled it before taking it away. Speaking of which, the person who found the doll's head They went back by that same spot the next day. The head was gone. I leave you to determine what it all means. There are numerous trails and numerous parks all over the world, and to those that want to help keep things safe and secure, they go and hide hidden cameras all over the trails. This helps keep park rangers and other officials in the loop, as well as giving them a glimpse as to what is happening all over the park. And that would be fine, except one of these hidden cameras caught a clown looking right at it one day. And it arguably is one of the scariest things you're going to see all day. I mean, what's more terrifying than clowns? Yes, there are, and we all know it. But especially with it being out in theaters once more for its second chapter, the notion of clowns being scary is more prevalent than ever. Why was this clown there? What was it doing? How did it know about the camera? Was this just a prank for the people behind the camera? Or something else? On the surface, finding a gravestone or tombstone in the woods doesn't sound too odd, mainly because there are people who live in the woods, and there are often people who like to be buried in the woods because of the fact that public cemeteries aren't for them. It happens. However, near Santa Cruz one time, a person was walking through the woods when they found a gravestone that wasn't attached to any particular grave. On the gravestone read the name Marie Holmes. Curious, the person looked up the name and found that this woman had killed herself in 1898 and that the gravestone from her burial place had disappeared. So that raises a lot of questions, don't you think? Why did the tombstone disappear? Why did it end up in the woods of Santa Cruz? And why hadn't it been discovered before then? Mysteries abound. If you were to look at this picture straight on, you wouldn't think too much about it more than likely, because on it is a man standing on the edge of a cliff intentionally and looking directly at the camera. No doubt to pose and get a great shot. We've all done it before. But if you look just to the left of the man, you'll notice that he's not alone. There is someone in the trees just to the left of him, and they too are looking at the camera. This raises so many questions. First off, if you look at the pic itself, you'll notice that it's not a digital photograph. There's a crease on the top right corner, meaning it was taken on a regular camera, printed, and then scanned to a computer, which means that this isn't fake, or very highly not fake. And if it isn't, what the heck is that guy doing there hiding in the trees? It's possible the camera person didn't notice them until later on, but still, that's creepy. Reddit is a very interesting place to get stories, and one Redditor revealed that one time when they were going through the woods that she felt rain coming down on her. And when she went to wipe it off of her, she found herself looking at blood. Knowing it wasn't hers, her and her friends looked up to see that there was a dead deer up in a tree, one that was half eaten at the time they saw it. Which begs the question, what killed it? What's more, how did they get the deer up the tree? Also, why eat it up there? It's hard to say. It's possible it could have been a big cat like a mountain lion. They are used to high places. Either way, that's not something you'd want to find on a trip to the woods. While we don't have the particular details on this specific plane crash, we do know that this one was indeed found in the woods, and that it's the remains of a plane that took off from Siberia and then crashed in Russia eventually. None of the passengers survived, and no one even knew where the plane crash landed before it was found like this. By that time, the bodies of the passengers were beyond recognition. Could you imagine stumbling upon something like this? Because I can't. Oh, thought we were done with the clown stories? Not so much. In Greenville, South Carolina, there was a string of strange incidents involving kids and clowns. Yes, that does sound like the story of It, but let's move on. According to the kids, there were multiple clowns in the area, and they were trying to lure the kids into the woods via money, which is weird because candy seems like a more classic option, but whatever. Apparently, there were a lot of kids who almost went into the woods, but instead they went and told the police about what was going on. The police never found anything about the clowns, which makes it all the more creepy. Was this some whacked out plan to kidnap children? Or something worse? I don't know, and honestly, I don't really want to know. Just glad there weren't any red balloons involved. Don't worry, this isn't a case of the deer being chased by the girl. However, this trail cam photo shows a very weird thing going on. Because there was a little girl in this picture, and she's really close to two deer. Granted, it is possible to sneak up on deer, but it's possible this camera caught that moment before the deer fled. You can even see the female deer looking at the girl while the buck is full-on deer in headlights at the camera. But if you think about it, that's not the creepy part. The creepy part is the fact that this girl is in the woods in the middle of the night by herself. Look at what she's wearing. That's not casual wear, that looks like nightwear, which makes it all the more weird that she's out there at all. Also, I fear for the deer. Just saying. Have you ever written anything in the snow? You know, just for fun? Left a message, wrote your name, anything? Good. Then you'll understand why this is creepy. One Redditor was going through the woods once in winter and realized that someone had written something in the snow. Not creepy per se, until you realize two things. First, the message that was written wasn't in English, rather it was in Latin. And two, the message had no footprints near it, yet the person could tell that the message was only a few hours old. So who made it? How did they do it without leaving a trace of them being there? Yeah, exactly. But just as curious was what the message translated to. Through audacity towards the unknown. That could be taken many different ways, but in all ways, it's still creepy. There is never a bad time per se to take a photo with friends, even if that means huddling together and taking a picture in the woods when it's really foggy outside, and basically starting the chain of events that'll lead to a horror movie. Okay, I kid, kind of. Because if you look at this picture, everything seems fine, until you look to the right and notice that in the distance there is something else there, hiding within the fog. Creepy? Oh yeah, but you technically can explain it. One, it could have been a member of their party who had been walking ahead of them, or it could have been another random person walking through the woods. Here's the thing, the people who took the picture didn't have anyone else in their group, and they claim that they didn't see anyone else in the woods that day. So, who was in that picture? When it comes to parks you can camp in, there are rules and areas that you need to observe and stay in. You can't just randomly go and plop up a place for yourself anywhere in the woods. It's actually illegal. Anyway, one day a park ranger was going through some woods when he spotted a campsite out of the areas that are allowed. So he went to go and see who was there. To his surprise though, no one was there. All of their campsites were set up, including a sleeping bag, some food, clothing, and most curious of all, a teddy bear, which would make you think that there was a family there. The ranger noted that this was just enough stuff for one person. Yet they weren't there, so what happened to them? Why were they there in the first place? Okay, this particular picture is creepy in all sorts of ways. Take a look and get some thoughts on it for yourself. See what I mean? And yeah, your eyes don't deceive you. This is a picture of an actual execution that happened out in the woods once. Specifically, the man on the right was a Russian spy who had been caught by Finland and was sentenced to death. So, why is he smiling? Sadly, he knew he was going to die and saw the picture being taken, so he felt that the only way out of the situation in terms of feeling something was to be smiling before dying. It's creepy that he did that, but also understandable. I think the creepiest part, though, was that Finland thought that they needed a picture of this moment. I mean, really? For some hikers, they prefer to sleep outside in the wilderness and enjoy the wonders of nature. For two friends and a brother, though, they knew there was a local cabin nearby and decided instead to go and stay there. But when they got to that cabin, they found some stuff that they didn't expect. First and foremost, the cabin was very filthy, which meant that there had been people before, which was proven by a variety of broken bottles as well as food bags ripped open and thrown everywhere. It was gross, but not creepy per se. That moment came when one of the friends went out behind the cabin. They saw a series of bloody clothes on the ground, and next to it was a roll of duct tape. That's a very odd combination, and they were all freaked out. They would have went to the police immediately, except a storm was coming, so they waited until morning and filed the report. What happened in that cabin? We're not likely to find out. The Island of the Dolls is arguably one of the most terrifying places known in the world today, and it's said to be haunted by the spirit of a young girl. You see, a man once found a girl dead in the nearby river to the island. To try and bring her spirit peace, he put some dolls in the trees for her spirit to play with. Others got in on this, and the island became adorned with dolls. Years later, all the dolls are withered and are incredibly creepy. Many accounts say that the dolls actually move on their own, thus making it one of the many haunted places in the world. Oh, and the guy who found the girl's body, he was found dead in the same river.